Welcome to the DFS JAGS Fantasy Golf Show 2021 Tokyo Olympics. I'm your host, Tony Altieri. Thank you again for being here tonight. With me always on the line, my co-host, the DDS of DFS, Dr. Riku Mukherjee. Rick, what's going on, man?
Hey, man. How you doing?
I am fantastic. We had another eventful week. We hit another winner. We'll get into all the details. But before we do all that, we've got to pay the bills a little bit here. Remember to smash the like button. Make sure you comment. Make sure you leave a message. Make sure you reach out to Rick and I on all of the social media platforms that we are also prevalent and available on. You can hit us at DFSJags on the Twitter box. Rick, where can the kids reach you?
At Riku Mukherjee on Twitter.
Yeah, and on the gram, where can they hit you up on the gram? Sliding into your DMs?
Yeah, Riku Mukherjee.
So remember, reach out to us, ask questions. We love the engagement. We love the commentary. We love to have the discussion with you because when we win, you win, and we love to continue this narrative. Last week, Rick, obviously, if you watched the betting show, if you were following us on Twitter, we hit another winner last week in Cam Champ at 100-1. Big win for the show. I think it makes 5 out of the last 6 weeks that we've called a winner. So we're just giving away money on this show. Like, I don't know another place that's giving out more winners, more money than this place right here, right now.
Yep, giving it away like candy. I wish I tailed you on it. Champ was he was definitely like on my radar in DFS and stuff like that, but definitely was not going to place a bet on Cameron Champ because I just didn't think he would win a tournament. But he seems to pop randomly. He's one of I think 6 or 7 guys that have won won a tournament each of the last 3 seasons. So that's 3 wins for him. And he just randomly pops after missing a bunch of cuts in a row. And we're really happy for you. Another back-to-back winners. So yeah, keep it going.
Yeah, it's funny because you mentioned the fact that he just kind of shows up out of nowhere. He's one of those guys, there's a handful of guys every year that it's like, regardless of how poorly they're playing, whether or not they're striking the ball well, putting, whatever the metrics are, like they just happen to show up one week and put it all together. And, one of the things we talked about in the show last week and in the betting show when I was on with Mike was how important off the tee was going to be this week because of all of the water on the course. We really needed to see guys put the ball in play and in good positions because if you weren't, they were big numbers because of the water. And if you sorted last week going into the tournament by strokes gained off the tee, it was like a who's who of the leaderboard on Sunday. It was Champ, Vegas, McNeely, all of those guys were near the top of the board going into the tournament at strokes gained off the tee. So I'm glad we're circling around the right kinds of things. Yeah. But, still, to watch a guy like Cam Champ pop out of nowhere where he really hasn't had any form. He did show well at the John Deere. We did make that comment as well, too, that the guys that were at the top of the board for the Rocket Mortgage and for the John Deere would probably end up being at the top of the board here. But really no real tell for Cam Champ that he would show up on Sunday and win this thing.
Besides him saying that he was playing the best golf of his career.
Yeah. I mean, he had been multiple interviews with Amanda Balionis talking specifically about that, right? Interviewing him post his second and third round, whether it was the John Deere or it was this last weekend at the 3M, he had made that mention that he had made the mental transition from a guy who was super frustrated, putting so much into everything that was happening on the course that he was very, very frustrated in the fact that he didn't see the results of all of the efforts that he was putting in.
Yeah, and also like the weirdest thing that you were mentioning was that how strokes gained off the tee was so important last week, but when I watched his round on Sunday and Saturday even, he wasn't hitting that many drivers, and that's his biggest weapon. He was hitting this piercing, like I guess it's like a 2-iron or maybe a 3-iron that he hits off the tee and just striping it. And then all of a sudden he makes this bonehead decision. I have no idea why on 18 on Sunday to pull driver. I guess he was not going to not pull driver on 18 up 2 strokes and tugs it left. Makes things interesting. I had a huge ticket on Vegas, so I was like, come on, double bogey into the water, and
appreciate that. Yeah,
but I mean, you had a ticket on Vegas too, so whatever.
I did as well too. Yeah,
but he tugs it left on 18 off the tee for some inexplicable reason, hits driver, then he pitches out. Somehow misses a tree and then lays up again, stuffs a wedge, makes par, and wins the tournament. And I was praying somehow he hit it into the water, but He did what he had to do, and he looked like he was like really struggling, like I think on like 13 or 14 with like dehydration.
Yeah, he
And
made
then
mention of that. Yeah,
yeah,
he
he
talked
looked like
about that in the round.
yeah, he looked like he was gonna throw up, like he was keeling over. It looked like he was about to like puke everywhere. And he just drank some Miracle Gatorade on like I think the 16th hole, and all of a sudden, boom, he feels 100% again, and just closes out the tournament. So happy for him. He's a really nice guy. I know
Yeah.
that he's definitely like a big big guy in the tries to represent the African American community. Like he's half African American, so like he's definitely like obviously looks up to Tiger Woods and stuff like that, and tries to represent their community really well. And he's doing a great job. 3 wins at such a young age. I mean, it's very very good of him.
Yeah, you made mention of it with the 18th hole, and it's something that I talked about with Mike on Monday night, was really the star of the tournament, as much as, Can Champ winning that event and all of the guys that were in the mix late into the tournament. The real star of the show was 18. I mean, it was like every day on 18, it was like catastrophe was lurking on everyone's tee shot. I mean,
Yep.
the day before, Gary Woodland hits one so far right that it actually carries the water, and it ends up with a decent shot to be able to hit the green in two. He was actually only, I think, about 215 yards away because he had missed the ball so far right. So,
Yeah.
it's amazing, even for tour pros, guys who've been playing on the PGA Tour for a number of years, major winners, to go out there and mentally struggle because of the way that, the course is shaped and how it sets up to the eye. It shows that, these guys are human, and there is an element of danger that lurks that can derail anybody's chances on any given Sunday.
Yeah, and you talk about that 18th hole. It was a killer on Saturday. There were so many balls in the water and just off the tee. And like it's weird because like it reminds me of like 18th at like Bay Hill or like some other courses with the water there, but it's a little bit different because it's like it's a bigger water. It comes into play off the tee, and then you can't like even if you have a safety shot, you can't run it up to the green. You have to hit it over the water to try to hit the green. Whereas at like Bay Hill, you can kind of run it up. I mean, people kind of remember like Arnold Palmer's like famous like last shot at Bay Hill, like hitting it out, running it up onto the green. But like here, you can't do that. And I guess the wind was playing tricks on people on Saturday, which was surprising because I wasn't expecting that weather. But yeah, there were so many water balls, like people making eights. Ricky Fowler made a triple bogey on 18, which ruined his tournament on Saturday. So yeah, I mean that was a crazy final, and it's the best. I love it when the last hole can literally make or break a tournament, and it did, and it almost did for Champ. He almost choked it away on 18, but you had to play that hole well, and you had to make birdie to win the tournament, and he did what he had to do.
Yeah, it's funny you mention it. There were some corollaries drawn by other people early on in the week to Bay Hill, to PGA National, right? The Honda Classic. You think about the 18th. The last image that I have of the Honda Classic is Tommy Fleetwood hitting it in the water on 18, right? Like it's that. The difference, I think, is, and it's something that you just mentioned, is not only is the water in play off the tee, but it's also in play on the second shot as well, too, where typically when you have water like that, it's either the tee shot or the approach shot where it becomes a really big obstacle. And in both instances, that water hazard is so large, the way the course wraps around that lake, it's in play on both shots. So even though you may hit a really good tee shot, you still got to think about that water on your approach shot as well. So it creates for high drama. As a guy who had a big ticket on Cam Champ, I was extremely nervous. When he yanked it left, I was like, oh my gosh. And then he lays up to get over the trees and then lays up again. And I'm thinking, this dude is going to hit it in the water. Like I knew that he was not going to stick that wedge. He was going to hit it in the water. We were going to go to a playoff, and all of my hopes and dreams were going to evaporate because Louis was going to walk away with this thing.
Yeah.
But as it turns out, it fell. The good guys won one. Cam Champ was able to get it done. He stuck that wedge to 3 or 4 feet and drained the putt and walked away with a W. So before we get into particulars about how your week broke down, I do want to mention we do have a new show starting on Wednesday. Rick, it is your show. You will be taking over the hosting duties, which, as you'll find out, is much easier than actually being the guest or the co-host on the show. But tell us a little bit about the show on Wednesday.
Yeah, sure. We're going to do a brand new fantasy football preview show. So to get you all ready for draft season coming up, and the season starts in September. So a lot of people will be drafting their fantasy teams in August. I'm going to bring on So me personally, I'm more into golf. I feel like I know golf really well. I play fantasy football. I've been playing it for years, and I know my football players. But my boy, who I'm going to have on the show tomorrow, Chris Caldwell, he's one of my best friends from Baltimore. He still lives out there. We're both diehard Ravens fans, and he is very, very knowledgeable when it comes to who he thinks like sleepers are and who you should fade and good stuff. And I've been playing in fantasy football leagues with him for years, and I always have a tough time beating him. I think he wins a lot of the leagues I play in. So definitely listen to what he has to say when you're getting ready for your drafts. And I'm excited to talk some football tomorrow. It's almost here. We're in training camp season now.
I know it's crazy to think about because of everything that happened with COVID and how wonky the season got and all those different things. But I mean, football's back, life is back. And so I'm glad you guys are putting the show together. Mike and I will both be watching and taking notes because we compete every year against each other in multiple fantasy leagues. So I'm looking to pick up some pointers, interested to see what Chris has to say. And I'm excited that we're just adding to the content on the Nickel City Mafia network here. In addition to your show, Mike has his weekly show that he does on Saturdays where he talks all things Buffalo. So if you want to learn about buffalo wings or bad food or crummy neighborhoods, terrible professional sports teams, you can follow Mike on Saturdays. He's more than happy to tell you about, losing 4 Super Bowls or making terrible draft picks. But anyways, tune in the Saturday show. Mike does a great job. He has a bunch of people on. He covers a number of different topics, and it just feeds into everything that we're doing each and every week here on the network. So I'm stoked for you. I'm stoked to have Chris aboard, and I'm glad we're going to continue just adding to the family of folks that are involved in this thing. So let's jump into it, Rick. Give us a quick roundup of how the 3M worked out for you and your DraftKings last week.
Yeah, it worked out. It was a little bittersweet for me. I was pretty excited. So I played a lineup in the 555. My main lineup, I played Matthew Wolf, Cameron Davis, Patton Kizzire, Hank Lebiota, Jonathan Vegas, and Tom Lewis. When I opened my DraftKings on Thursday, I was pretty, you could say pretty upset about the ownership that I saw. Like I said last week, I like it when total ownership's around 80% is what I usually shoot for. This week it was right around 100%, which means I had a pretty chalky lineup. And lo and behold, it was Hank Lebiota and Jonathan Vegas just soaking up 60% of ownership in my lineup. Obviously, I was very excited on Friday when I got a 6 of 6 through, and I was thinking I was going to cash pretty big this week. But I don't know exactly what happened, but Hank Lebiota, a couple hours after he makes eagle on 18 to post -4 on Friday, withdraws from the tournament for personal reasons. I mean, I hope everything's okay with him. I heard some rumors of he potentially having like Crohn's disease or something like that, and it was possibly flaring up. I don't know. I don't know if it was a medical reason. I don't know if it was a personal reason. I don't really know. It wasn't COVID, obviously. So either way, that sucked. We got the news that he withdrew, so my lineup went from a 6 of 6 to a 5 of 6. Either way, still scored 447 points, placed 72nd place, cashed. I cashed that lineup in pretty much all the high dollar stuff that I was playing in. So I pretty much doubled my money, maybe 2.5x my money for the week on DraftKings. I had a pretty big ticket on Johnny Vegas betting wise. Unfortunately, didn't hit that, but it was good. Made net profit for the week, so I was pretty excited about that, even with the 5 of 6. Obviously, the big linchpin in that lineup was Johnny Vegas at -13. Wolf, Davis, and Kizzire all played all right. Cameron Davis had a great Sunday. I think he shot like 7 under on Sunday, which was good. Tom Lewis was my sleeper for the week. He made the cut. He was 2% owned. I was excited. He started off the week like -4, -5 on Thursday, and then kind of just faded away on the weekend. So overall, pretty good lineup. I was excited about the way it was looking on Friday, hoping I was going to get into the top 20, maybe even the top 10 of that contest. But unfortunately, Lebiota withdrew, which sucked. But it is what it is. Those things happen, I guess. I was never really happened like that to me before, where somebody made a cut and then withdrew. Usually it's just a regular old miscut for me, but it is okay. It's okay. Still cash, still made pretty good money on DraftKings this week, and on to the next week.
Yeah, it's one of those things where whether it's a good week or a bad week, you kind of just got to flush it and move on to the next one. This thing is like the ocean. It just comes week after week, wave after wave. So I think continuing to have a good game plan, sticking with that, and being able to roll with the punches. I mean, the Lebiota punch was just a total nut buster to all three of us this week. I mean, we all had him in DraftKings. We all had him in 6-6 lineups. And when he withdrew, it was like the air got sucked out of the room. So those things, to your point, are going to happen. Some things are outside of our control. And obviously, there's things bigger than golf, especially when it's not even real golf for us. It's just us betting on golf. So these guys are human beings. They have lives. Things happen. And so to your point, we hope Hank's okay. We hope he's back. We love betting him. We love playing him. And I look forward to betting on him in the next tournament that he happens to have.
Absolutely. He's been so fire, like with his putter and his ball striking, that I'm gonna keep playing him when he's back in the tournament.
Yeah, you mentioned it, the putting train. He's been on this freak show of a putting train where he's averaging 4 or 5 strokes gained putting. You wonder, is this the real Hank Lebiota, or is the guy who had been a PGA Tour player for the last year and a half who hadn't been a very good putter, is that the real Hank Lebiota? So I'm hoping for the latter because we've all been riding that train for quite some time, and I'd love to see him cash like Sam Burns, like Cam Davis, like Cam Champ, where they just show up and win and have this tournament. So he's due, and I hope sometime soon he ends up cashing that ticket.
Yeah, I think he should be in the FedEx Cup playoffs, right? Like I think he's in the top 125. So I think we'll probably see him next at the probably the Northern Trust, or maybe, I don't know, whatever, maybe Wyndham. I don't know. If he feels better, I guess if he gets over whatever his personal reasons was, hopefully we'll see him back in a couple of weeks.
Yep, exactly. Well, on to this week, a little bit outside of the norm. We are talking about the Tokyo Olympic Games. We haven't had an Olympic Games in 5 years because of the pandemic. Here we are. It is the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, even though it's being played in 2021. It is the course that we are going to be playing this week, and I know I'm going to butcher this, but I'm still going to give it a run. Kasumigaseki Country Club. There it is. Kasumigaseki Country Club. I got it right. Tom Fazio redesigned in 2016. The course was totally revamped. If you tune into anybody else's content, if you're listening to everyone, you'll hear the same narrative. It was 2 greens. They were combined to 1. It was transitioned from 2 different types of green over to bent grasses. The green complexes will be slightly larger than what they play on tour. So theoretically, it will be easier. The course will play long. It's a par 71, anywhere between 7,400 and 7,600 yards, depending on where the tee boxes are set up. The last winner of this was Justin Rose in 2016 in Rio. No correlation to carry over to this tournament. Key stats for the week that I have identified. Curious to get your feedback as well on those, Rick. Strokes gained approach, always paramount in every one of the tournaments, every single week. Will be important here this week as well, too. Strokes gain off the tee. If we're talking about a longer course with a lot of bunkers, you'll want guys who can place the ball safely in the fairway. Distance will be at a premium this week. Strokes gain ball striking, always important, incorporates a number of the different metrics that we're talking about. Leaves out short game and putting, and then opportunities gain, whether you're in the fairway or slightly off, your ability to get up and down and score when you have the opportunity, because I think this course will play, despite all of the narratives that I've kind of thrown out there, slightly easier than your regular tour stop. The field is not great. We have 50 or 60 guys in the field for the Olympic Games as compared to 150 in our normal tour events or 120 in any one of the majors. And so that brings up a very good point. When we're talking specifically about DraftKings this week and lineup construction, there's a totally different philosophy for how you need to work your builds, how you consider ownership, and where you take chances and where you build cornerstones in your lineups. So, Rick, I'm curious to get from you, how does the fact that we're talking about a very limited field of roughly 35% of the guys that are normally in an event, how does that change the way that you approach the week from a DraftKings perspective?
Yeah, so it's very, very different this week. It's not a typical event where you have a cut after Friday and you're sweating that on Friday. So hoping to get 6-6 through, you're going to get 6-6 through all 4 rounds. So we always stress about trying to make your lineups different, trying to pivot off high ownership plays and stuff like that. For me, when it comes to a limited field event like this, and it's only 60 players, a couple ways that I like to make my lineups different. The number one way is leaving money on the table. You have a $50,000 salary cap on DraftKings. I always, when I'm playing a normal event, I usually try to leave a couple $100, maybe $200, $300, $400 during a normal week. But this week, you can leave up to like $1,000, $1,500 on the table, play a lineup that's 48,500, and that definitely will make you a little bit more unique than the rest of the field. The other thing is you have, like I was saying, like I like to keep my total ownership around 80%. This week, because of the limited field size, that number is going to be a little bit higher. I usually like to cap my total ownership at like 90, 95%, maybe even 100%, because you're going to get people that play a chalky lineup, and it's going to be because of the amount of chalk that's out there. A chalky lineup is going to be like 130, 140% compared to like 100% on like a normal week. So definitely like to increase my total ownership cap there, leave some money on the table. If you do that, it will make your lineup unique. The other thing is, a lot of people this week, they like to go stars and scrubs. They like to go two big guys up top and then round off their lineups with like 6K guys, because they know they're going to get points all 4 rounds. And even though they're not making the cut, playing these scrubs at the bottom of the field, if they don't do anything, it's just as bad as like them not making the cut, because they're playing more holes and making bogeys, and your scores going down. So I think, in all honesty, another way to be a little bit more unique is to play a little bit more of a balanced lineup, maybe starting in the 9K range, or maybe even like with Patrick Reed at like 10K or something like that. So if you start a little bit more balanced and round off your lineup in like the 7K range, it makes it a little bit more different. I know a lot of people, they love banging the top of the board with with JT and Colin Morikawa, with these top end guys, and having 2 of them in your lineup, and then playing like the scrubs in the 6K, because they know they're going to get points no matter what. So that's a couple ways to make your lineups different. If you're using a lineup generator that you can cap ownership at, I usually like to say around 100% is probably a good way to cap ownership, and then setting your minimum and maximum amount that you want to leave on the table as far as salary. I will not play a single lineup this week that has using 50,000, all 50,000 of my dollars. Absolutely not.
Well, I mean, it's a pretty interesting strategy, because by simply not hitting the 50,000 cap, you give yourself some leverage on the field, because you're automatically going to be differentiating. 99% of the people are going to be out there trying to hit that 50,000 number, regardless of whether they're doing balance builds or they're going stars and scrubs. And so it is a unique way to do it. This was the first week that I've actually heard people promote that strategy in lineup building, right? Is to leave a good amount of money, $500, $1,000 on the table, because again, you're getting 4 rounds. As long as your guy doesn't WD for personal reasons or catch COVID or some other weird thing that we're having to deal with, right? Like, you're gonna get 4 rounds of golf, and so it's a great way to differentiate. So let's do this. Let's jump right into the top of the board. Sure. There are 12 guys priced at $9,000 and above. And so we have a very condensed top of the board. With 12 guys, everybody's going to have a lot of ownership this week. So I'm curious, for me, when I look at typical ownership, when a guy starts encroaching 18, 20%, that feels very chalky to me. This week, you could see damn near every one of these guys above 15% ownership in a field like this, because your options are so limited. Where is a good place to start in terms of what your expectation should be for getting leverage at the top of the board like this?
Yeah, let's go into it. In the 10K range this week, there is a clear chalk, major chalk, and there's a clear pivot in that range. The clear chalk is Morikawa right at the top. He's coming in more owned than anyone else in the 10K range. He's coming in at like 20, 25%. In that range, people just absolutely are harping on the Morikawa bandwagon now after he won the Open, with good reason. He's probably the best player in the world besides him and Jon Rahm. It seems like it's going to be a good course for him, with like we talked about earlier, approach, all that good stuff. Slow greens, he's going to, be able to neutralize his putter a little. And then he's the chalk of this range. And then the clear low-owned guy in this range is going to be Patrick Reed. He's coming in actually at single-digit ownership. I'm seeing 9.2% right now. So people are wondering how he's going to play. He's actually literally traveling to Tokyo right now, or he's just getting there right now. I guess he's getting there right now because he's going to be teeing it up tomorrow. But the first tee shot he's going to hit on this course is going to be tomorrow. So he's traveling from Minnesota to Tokyo, and he's not going to get any practice rounds. And so people are thinking that he's not going to be playing well this week. The rest of the 10K range is pretty flat. Everyone is seeming to be around 10 to 15% in between Thomas, Schauffele, Hideki, and Rory. For me, I'm going to go JT this week. I'm going to be super overweight on him. I'm going to go with the whole. He's of all his wins, I think he has 15 wins on tour. 9 of them are in limited field, no cut events like this, and he's won in Asia before at one of these kind of events at the CJ Cup a couple of years ago. So I know his game hasn't been the best in form recently, but he can flip a switch at any time. He just can flip his irons, his putting, all that stuff. So I'm going to be on JT. I'm going to play Xander. He's also a no-cut specialist. I just can't get away from Xander. The guy doesn't win. The guy is priced up. The guy, his odds are always ridiculous. I never bet him. I just play him in DraftKings. But he's won the WGC China before, so he has won in this part of the world before. So I'll play JT. I'll play Xander. I'm gonna. I really hate to fade Morikawa, but he's the highest guy on the board price wise. He's the highest ownership in this range. I told myself after the Open I'm not going to fade him. I'll have him in some lineups. I'll just be underweight on him. I just can't fit him in the lineups that I want to play with him this week. The other guys in the range, and I'm not going to play Rory. He's been known to not play well. We didn't talk about this, but there's not going to be any fans there this week, so he's not really well known to be playing with no fans, and his game's been off in general. So I'm out on Rory. I know you bet Hideki this week. I know he's your horse at the top this week. I don't really know what to do with him. I don't know if the pressure's a little bit too much for him. I know he has history on this course. He won amateur championship here and stuff like that. I'm not really sure what to do with him, but I'll probably play a little bit of him. But yeah, that's pretty much my takes for the top of the board right there. Reed, he is a nice pivot, becoming in single digit ownership. He is Captain America. He knows how to put on the USA colors and play well. But the whole traveling from England to Minnesota to Tokyo with barely any rest, I don't think I can get there with him this week.
Yeah, no, I hear you there. I have similar feelings about Patrick Reed. It's just there's a lot of miles on that car right now with everything that he's done recently, going from the Open to the 3M, now here to Tokyo last minute. You know, again, Patrick Reed is the kind of guy when everybody counts him out, that's when he plays his best golf and wins. So you can take that for what it's worth. I like the single digit ownership. I agree with you that gives you some leverage that you typically don't have in a field like this. So it'll be interesting. I'm not quite there with Patrick Reed. You know how I feel about Hideki. I feel like this is destiny for him. I've bet him. He will be a heavy play in my lineups. But I'm curious, as we drop down into that next level, the 9K level, obviously Hovland is the guy that everyone is talking about and circling around. He will be probably the most heavily owned guy, like he is damn near every single tournament. You've got other really chalky guys historically, like Paul Casey. You've got the narrative around Sung J.M. Joaquin Niemann has been mentioned multiple times by everybody in the industry. How do you see this 9K range being played out?
Yeah, like you said, Hovland's going to be the chalk in this range. He's going to be the highest guy owned on the board. He's my pick to win this week. I placed a big bet on him. He's the only guy from this amongst the top like 10, 15 golfers in the field that I bet. So I'm hoping he has a great week. He won the BMW in Germany a few weeks ago, so we know he's in form. He's one of the best off the tee players. He's one of the best tee to green players in the field. I'm going to ride the Hovland train. My main lineup's probably going to start JT Hovland and then kind of figure out from there, moving down. But I'll be overweight on him in large field tournaments. Other than that, I like Shane Lowry. I could see people wanting to pivot off Hovland and playing Shane Lowry. He's been pretty good this year, coming in really low owned for this tournament. I'm only seeing like 10% right now, so he's coming in pretty low. And I'll play some Shane Lowry. Why not? The whole Sung Jae narrative, I don't know. He's coming in super chalk. He's coming in like 20% right now. I know he needs to medal. I would love to see him medal, obviously, because then I get to not have to take a Sung Jae break for 2 years. But the thing with him though is that he is going to get another crack at this in Paris in 4 years. So maybe he has that little bit of relief of pressure from there. So I don't know. He's not been in the greatest form. He is well rested. He's been there, I think, for like a month now. He skipped the Open to go there and play. But coming in at 20%, I don't know if I can get there with Sung Jae. I think it's going to be more of like a hedge situation for me, where I don't think I'm going to play him in DFS, but I will be happy for him if he wins, like in my heart, because then he wins or even gets a bronze medal. So I don't think I'll get there with Sung Jae. And then the other guys, I like Neiman. I always play Neiman. He's my boy. He's a Chile representative. So him and Mito are the Chile guys. So I'll definitely play him. And then the middle guys they're getting a little squeezed out for me in my lineup building. Paul Casey's coming in super chalk. Abraham Ancer's coming in chalky. So I'm probably gonna have to fade one of them. If I'm gonna fade between those two, it's gonna be Ancer. I just never really get to Ancer in the 9K range. I don't think he really. Me personally, I don't think he really deserves to be in the 9K range. I think he's more of an 8K golfer, but people love Casey. He's a winner overseas, even though he doesn't win on the PGA Tour that much, but he wins overseas. But I'll probably go to Casey more than Ancer. But yeah, that's my take on the 9K. Who do you like down here?
You know, it's pretty interesting. Kind of the narrative behind the Olympic Games is have game will travel, right? Guys that have won overseas, Casey, Hovland, people are really circling around those names, which explains why they're so chalky. I probably, when I do constructions, I will probably end up doing somewhat of a build where I take one of the guys at the top of the board, like Hideki, or maybe even Patrick Reed, and try to figure out who's going to be the least owned guy in this range, whether that's, Sung Jae or Casey or whomever, and pair those two guys together. The other option for me that I think I may try to do is just avoid this area altogether. I may drop down and go all the way to the 8K range and just forego everybody in the 9,000s.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty good plan. You're fading out there. I didn't really get some of what you said there, but yeah. This is the range. The 9K range is where I'm going to load up in. Just play a couple guys up top and then load up in the 9K range, and then the 8K range is probably going to be a little bit of a dead zone for me. But I still like some guys in there.
Yeah, so let's drop down to the 8,900 to 8,000 range. We've got names like Cam Smith, Corey Connors, Seabez, Fleetwood, Lee Shinman, Guido Migliozzi, Higo Norin, Peters, and rounding out the bottom, Mac Hughes. I could build a narrative for any one of these guys to have a chance to win gold. But to be honest with you, it's very hard for me to imagine any of these guys walking away being the guy on the top of the podium on Saturday evening for us, right? So I'm curious, from a DraftKings perspective, there is an argument to say if you just build your lineup in this range, you'll automatically have an ownership benefit, because a lot of people, to your point, will be skipping this range entirely or making selections on one guy from this range. So as we kind of look through and go through this, which guys are you circling on? Which guys make the cut for you in the 8,000 range? Oh, we may have lost Rick. This is how it works. Live TV, folks. I guess it's not necessarily TV. Oh, Rick, we've got you back. You were cutting in and out.
Can you hear me? Are you good?
We've got you.
Okay, sorry. Yes. 8K range. I'm going Corey Connors here. That's my boy. He the Canada representative. There's two of them in this range. Corey and Mac Hughes. Corey's coming in a little chalky, but his ball striking has just been so superb this year that I'm going to go to him. I'm not going to play any Cam Smith. I don't really like. I always have a soft spot for Fleetwood. I'm going to play some Fleetwood. My main guy in this range is going to be, besides Connors, is going to be Thomas Peters. He's great off the tee. I know he's had his struggles in the past and stuff like that, but I'm definitely going to play some Thomas Peters. I like Higo. I don't know if his game's dropping off a little bit. He is coming in single-digit ownership. I'll play him more than Guido this week, but I do like some Higo. But I'm out on Norin. I'm out on the Aussies. I'll play some Connors, some Fleetwood, some Peters, and I'll probably play some Mac Hughes too, because he's such a lucky guy with the putter.
Yeah, I mean, Mac Hughes, we talked about it here during the Open leading up to that. He is kind of Spieth 0.05, right? Like, He does all the things Spieth does, just not as well. But he does present some a different opportunity, right? Like you could make a case to do what we call like stacking, where you take skill set stackings, right? Everybody's going to be targeting ball strikers. Everybody's going to be looking at guys with distance, hit the ball long and straight off the tee. If you take a build where you're grabbing guys like Patrick Reed, like Mac Hughes, these guys that are scramblers, Cam Smith, you're automatically going to get yourself some, I guess, ownership benefit because people aren't targeting them because all of the narrative around what you need to be successful on this course is not what these guys do well. Remember, these guys are world-class golfers. Mac Hughes is a perfect example. He's shown up in the last 4 or 5 majors and big tournaments and played very, very well down the stretch. So just because a guy's not a ball striker, he's not a pounder off the tee, doesn't mean he doesn't have an opportunity to win.
Yeah. Just to talk a little bit more about the ownership in the 8K range, the single-digit guys are Seabez, Christian Bezadenhut, Higo, and Noren. That's what I'm seeing as like the single-digit ownership guys. So if you want to pivot to one of those guys, I see it. I'm going to definitely pivot to Higo. I'm not huge on Seabez or Noren, but those guys could definitely show up. Like you said, they're all world-class players. I think Noren is way overpriced here. I don't know why he's 8,200. He should be in the 7K range, but yeah, those are the single-digit ownership guys, and the chalk in this range is going to be Corey Connors, and I'm going to eat it with him and play him, and hope he can make my DraftKings lineup pretty well.
Yeah. I think if you're going to choose to play chalkier guys, this range is probably the range where folks will circle on guys like Connors. You've got some options in the 8K range, and like I said, the names here are names that people know, but they're not names that people count on each week to make their lineups. Connors is really the only guy that fits that bill that becomes what I would call a lineup stalwart, where he is a ball striker, he does play well. He has been competing very, very well, even through the Open, had an opportunity late. But, I could see a lot of folks basically just skipping over this range, mainly because they can't afford to fit any one of these guys in their lineup because they're grabbing guys in the 10K and the 9K range. So let's drop down to the $7,000 range. Here we've got a lot of familiar names for those of us that follow the international and European tours. You've got your Antonio Rosners, your Thomas Detries, Riku'S Hoshino, who is the other Japanese golfer representing the host country this year, Rasmus Højgaard, CT Pan, who has some interesting narrative around him. CT Pan is the only guy who ends up making money from this tournament if he actually wins this week. Matthias Schaub, and then the Jazz Man coming in at the bottom of the 7,000 range. Who do you like in this range? Where are you seeing ownership kind of break down?
So there's in this range, 7K, there's 3 clear chalk guys, Siwoo Kim, Johnny Vegas, and Mito Pereira. Out of those 3 guys, you can't play all 3. I'm going to have to fade one of them, I think, at least. Probably thinking I'm going to fade Johnny Vegas. I know he's been lights out recently, and I know he was, playing really well last week. I had a ticket on him. He was in my main lineup, but I'm feeling Mito this week. He's been playing so good. I get that he's coming in super chalky, but I'm gonna, if I have some Mito in my lineups, I got to figure out a way to get different elsewhere. But I think with Siwoo, the thing you got to remember is that yes, he has a lot of pressure. Yes, he does need to medal to forego military service, and this is going to be probably his last crack at it. So I am going to ride the chalk with him. I am going to play Siwoo. I think it is nice to be able to get 4 rounds out of him, because even if he doesn't play the greatest on Thursday or Friday, the guy can literally fill up the cup with birdies, and he can outscore his actual placement point with placement points. So I'll definitely go to him. And then everyone else is pretty much a pivot in this range. Everyone else is coming in pretty low ownership. So you can go to guys like Rosner, who's coming in at 9%, or guys like Rikuya, Hoshino, who is like sandwiched right between Vegas and Pereira, and you're automatic. If you play those guys in your lineup, you're going to be different. So definitely have a chance to be different here. I think me and you both have bets on Jazz this week, so I definitely don't mind the play on Jazz. Jano Watananan, I think is how you say his last name. He's coming in at 7% ownership, is what I'm seeing. So no one's playing him. Like you said, CT Pan, he gets $1 million if he wins this tournament from the Chinese Taipei government. So I think he has that extra motivation there. But yeah, the chalky guys, Siwoo, Johnny Vegas, and Mito. I'm gonna go with Siwoo and Mito and fade Vegas, and then I'll just pivot elsewhere with the other guys that are low owned in this range.
Yeah, the two guys that I've kind of been circling around when I'm talking about builds, just because we do have the opportunity for guys to play 4 rounds, is Thomas Detry and Rasmus Højgaard. I mean, both guys at different times this year have been stars on the Euro Tour. They both absolutely pound the ball off the tee. They are ball strikers. And if we're talking about a course where distance is at a premium and putting the ball in the fairway, being able to play all over the world, both guys kind of fill those narratives. Again, they are playing on the Euro Tour. They're not regular tour players, but Detry's a guy who is, for all intents and purposes, Euro phenom. And then Rasmus Højgaard, I mean, Højgaard, you can put him up there with, Mito and a bunch of other guys. He has the skill set to win. Do I think he's going to medal or finish high in this event? Probably not. But both guys, because of ownership and the opportunity to play 4 rounds of golf, can score you some points. And to your point about placement points and actual DraftKings scoring, both guys set up well to outperform their actual placement points.
Yeah, and like you said with Detry last a couple weeks ago, he
looks like we lost Rick again. That's okay. We'll jump back in here when he's back in. So let's go ahead and move down to the sub $7,000 range. Hopefully Rick jumps back in here. Down here, we've basically got the who's who of no names. It is dumpster diving. And if you're going to be playing more than one guy in your lineup from this range, you're probably asking for a world of trouble. A lot of folks are going to try and shove 2 of the top end guys into their lineups. And really what that ends up doing is it means you're going to have to go down here and get at least one of these guys. So if you're looking at guys down in this range, there are some clear guys that are coming in chalky. First and foremost, it's going to be Henrik Norlander. He's a name that people know from the PGA Tour. He is a supreme ball striker. He does very well off the tee. His driver is his number 1 weapon. And I think at his price, a lot of people will be using quite a bit of him this week on DraftKings. The other guy that many people seem to be talking about in terms of lineup building and how things are constructed are Sepp Straka. Again, a name that people know. Sepp is a guy who is an absolute beast off the tee. He's not coming in with the best of form. He's missed quite a few cuts in a row. Rick, you are back.
Okay, cool. Sorry about that, guys.
No, you're good, man. It's, when we're filming live like this, that's just the name of the game. I was just talking about Sepp Straka being a name that people know, Henrik Norlander being the other guy in the dumpster diving range that are going to garner some ownership. In terms of the numbers that you're seeing, Rick, other than Straka and Norlander, are there any other guys that are kind of outperforming or are showing more ownership down in this range?
No, not really. It's pretty much all Norlander and Straka. I see a little bit coming in on, let's see here. No, that's it. Everyone else is pretty much single-digit ownership. So, yeah, you could definitely, fade both of those guys if you wanted to. For me, I'm going to pivot off of Norlander and show a little bias here and play some Anirban Lahiri, my Indian brother. So we're going to play some Anirban. He's playing well. I think he finished 3rd or 4th at the Barbasol, and then he was top 5 earlier this year at the Valero Texas Open. That was the tournament that I won a big GPP on, and I needed him to birdie the last hole to get me to the top there. So I do have some soft spot for him. He's hit or miss. Obviously, he's been a journeyman for the last few years. So, yeah, I'll play Anirban. I'll kind of pivot off of Norlander, play some Anirban. A couple other names down here that we like. I don't know if you know much about this Fabrizio Zanatti guy. I think he's a maybe Paraguayan or something. I don't know.
I
Some
would
from
have
some
guessed with a name like that he was Italian, but I know that's not
Italian.
the case.
Yeah, I don't think he's Italian. I think he's from a different country, but he pops sometimes on the Euro Tour. I definitely like him. I'll play some of him this week. Some other guys here. I don't know. How do you feel about Rory Sabatini? He's hit or miss.
Yeah, I mean, Sab started out the year really, really well. It's pretty funny because there's a lot of talk that the only reason that he became a native of this country was so he could play in the Olympics, right, and have an opportunity to win a medal. But you know, Sabs is a guy. He's a regular tour guy. He's been playing on the tour for I don't know 20 years. So if you're talking about a guy who has what I would call a low floor or a high floor and a low ceiling, Sabs fits that narrative. The guy that I kind of talked about with Mike in this range that, you know, could be a guy that shows up is Ryan Fox. He's big off the tee. He's played well. He's been on the European Tour for damn near 20 years. He's a guy that just fits a lot of the narrative skill sets that I think we're looking for this week. I'm not going to have a lot of them. I'm not going to have a lot of anybody in this range. But if we're just naming names, the other guy that I would throw out there, and it's something that was actually mentioned on Mayo's show, is KKJ, Christian Kroh Johansson.
Johansson,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, so he's a guy from the Challenge Tour. For those of you not familiar with what the Challenge Tour is, it's a developmental tour for the European Tour. And he's had like 6 or 7 top 15 finishes. He hasn't missed a cut in I don't know how long. So he's got some good form. I know absolutely nothing else about the guy. But again, not necessarily for an outright. But again, if you're just looking to gain some leverage, throw a guy in to be able to fit a couple of top end guys into your lineup. There's a guy at $6,100 you might be able to turn to. And then the last guy is a name that we kind of know. Rafael Campos is a guy that, you know, kind of floats in and out of what I would call the alternate events on the PGA Tour every single year. He plays 6, 7, 8 events on the PGA Tour. He has not been great by any measure. I don't think he's made a cut here in the last 4 or 5 weeks. He is $6,000, which is min. So again, you're guaranteed 4 rounds. You just got to hope Rafael shows up and doesn't crap his pants on the course, and you actually get 4 rounds of play out of him.
I think he had a top 20 or maybe even a top 15 at the Barbasol a couple weeks ago. So it's not like he's out of form. He lost he almost won. I think it was the Bermuda or the Puerto Rico or something earlier this year to Joel Damon. So he can light it up a little bit. So I could see going to him if you're really in a tight spot and playing like 3 guys from like the 9K 10K range and you really need to go down to the men. You could play some Rafa Campos. Quickly circling back to Rory Sabatini. I don't know if you just said this or not, but the guy. He literally changed his nationality because he was South African before. Yeah. And he knew that being a South African, he wasn't going to be able to get into the Olympics because of the competition in South Africa, obviously. So he changed his nationality, took citizenship with Slovakia. Slovakia, just for the sole purpose of being able to play in the Olympics. So if you think that this is a big tournament for him, this is a big tournament for him. He's gonna be motivated to play. He's coming in at 5% ownership. You could definitely play some Sabs. One other name that we didn't mention that I'm going to mention here. If you guys go on Instagram and look up this guy, Yeshun Yuan. I don't even know how to say his name, but he goes by Carl Yuan. I think he's Chinese. He has one of the nicest swings I've ever seen in golf. Like it's like Rory McIlroy-esque. Like he is like his swing is absolutely beautiful. Not saying he's going to play well this week, but obviously he's native to this part of the world. So you can these are just darts that you're going to be throwing out down here. So pick the names you like, or just close your eyes and click a couple names on here, whoever you like. But my main guy down here is going to be Anirban. I would go if he won the gold medal. I would literally go nuts. I would literally.
You'd have a parade for him in India, right?
Yeah, I would like grab a big Indian flag, like take my clothes off, just go streaking around in the house, like carrying around.
That is not a side I would want to see.
Yeah,
that is not something
covered in an Indian flag and just be going crazy. But yeah, he's my guy down here. It's clear pivot for me off of Norlander. He's the Norlander and Straka are both coming in around 20%. So, I mean, those are the names that we know down here. So if you don't want to play those, obviously you can play these other guys and be different.
Yeah, the last name I'm going to mention before we jump down into your bets for the week is Sammy Velimaki, right? He was a guy here a month and a half, 2 months ago on the Euro Tour. I think he won his first event. The guy is built like a brick shit house, for lack of a better word. He hits the ball a ton, but he's been absolute trash here for the last month and a half since winning on the Euro Tour. But again, he's a guy that has won. He is competing at a very high level, so there is some win equity in that name. Whether or not you want to dabble in some Sammy Velimaki is really up to you. I may have him in a lineup or two this week.
Yeah, I could see that too. I actually just realized that I have a little bomb sprinkle on him in my bets. We'll see him in the next section.
There you go. So that's a great segue, right?
I literally totally forgot that I bet him until I just looked at my card and I was like, oh, I bet Velimaki.
Yeah, well, at 300 to 1, like it's okay. You don't have to worry about it. Well, you throw two.
Oh, did we lose Tony? You got me still? Okay, well, let me go ahead and run down my betting card here since we lost Tony. Sorry for all the technical difficulties today, guys. Looks like we're having a struggling day with the internet. But my bets this week, we're going to go with Victor Hovland at 12 to 1. That's the biggest nugget I got this week. Then we got Corey Connors 28 to 1, Siwoo Kim 55 to 1, Thomas Peters 71, and then a couple bombs for me are going to be Mito at 100 to 1. Jazz.
The joys of live streaming here. We seem to be both having connective issues with the home country here, Rick.
Yeah, I got you back. But I was just going over my cards. So bombs for me, Mito at 100 to 1, Jazz at 130 to 1, Lahiri at 250 to 1, and Velimaki at 300 to 1. And then I played a couple